Now on Denver 7 News. Contact Denver 7 is searching for answers after thousands of Coloradans never got their Tabor refund checks. How you can find out what happened to yours and request a new one.
Anti-drunk driving technology will be required in all cars in the next few years, but at least one car maker isn't waiting. The new tech coming now to detect when your normal driving is off. And misinformation is a big concern ahead of the midterm elections, especially in the Latino community. You will meet the artist fighting this through political cartoons.
And Colorado car thieves are targeting certain models more than others. How those car companies are taking action now to prevent them from being stolen. Thank you for joining us. I'm Micah Smith. Where is my Tabor check? Contact Denver 7 keeps getting that question months after the tax rebate checks started going out. Jolene Merritt says she never received her $750 Colorado cashback check. She called to find out why, and turns out it was sent to her home address where she cannot receive mail instead of her P.O. box and was returned back to the state.
They said it could be up to 8 weeks to reissue a new check. I'm blessed that we are okay, but I still watch every penny we have. So extra $750 of my tax dollars that I paid in would be nice to have.
Contact Denver 7 did some digging and found out 55,000 checks sent out have been returned to the state. If you haven't received your check, you can contact the Colorado Cashback Call Center hotline at the number on your screen. We'll have more on the state's response tonight on Denver 7 News at 6. Louisville residents rebuilding their homes after the Marshall Fire are getting a break from the city. Last night, the city council passed an ordinance exempting people with rebuilding permits from the city's use tax on construction materials. The Marshall Fire destroyed or damaged nearly 600 homes in Louisville. We checked last week and found out just 48 rebuilding permits have been issued there so far.
Lights are coming on in Southwest Florida more quickly than expected after Hurricane Ian. Crews have been working hard to get the power back on for more than 2 million people. The company CEO says preparation made all the difference this time.
First off, the investments that have been made in storm hardening, the concrete poles, the steel poles, the undergrounding, the smart grid technology, all that's coming to bear and it's paying off, and we're seeing that occur. It's given us the opportunity to do a lot more repair work than rebuilding.
Now, he says the power will be back on for everyone by Friday, which is days ahead of schedule. Now, it could be a while before storm-damaged schools in the Fort Myers area can reopen. Floodwaters brought mud and debris into the buildings. One district says that more than half of its schools need some sort of repairs, and some are beyond repair. They're working with the State Department of Education to come up with alternative solutions like holding classes elsewhere. Members of the Baptist Church are getting to know each other and their faith better in Ian's aftermath. A few of them sheltered inside the church as the storm blew through and rattled the building so hard that the steeple actually ripped off. Then, as flooding moved through and destroyed more homes, those people also found refuge at the church where they are now continuing to live.
My friend sleeps there on that lounge. Mine's up on the altar because when the water started coming in, I went up to the altar because this whole floor is wet.
We're living here now. It's the only home we have now.
The pastor thinks about 25% of the congregation lost their homes. Now, it is going to be a bit until we know the full economic impact from Hurricane Ian, but some economists are estimating that the storm likely caused about $50 billion in damage to the state of Florida and several more $1 billion in South Carolina. Now, that would make it one of the costliest natural disasters in recent history.
Parents and students will have another chance to make their case on why Jeffco schools should keep more than a dozen schools open. 2 meetings will take place tonight for parents and students from the affected schools. This comes after Wheat Ridge passed a resolution last night urging the district to keep the schools open and come up with another plan. But district leaders say the closures are necessary due to a major decline in enrollment and a lack of funding for smaller schools.
Our enrollment is just in a place where it continues to decline, and as we look to the future and the resources that we want to provide in our schools, consolidating, closing some schools was really the only way that we can get there.
The first meeting will take place at 5 p.m. at Peck Elementary. The second is at Mulholm Elementary starting at 6. Car theft numbers aren't getting any better in Colorado. A new report by the Common Sense Institute reports an average of more than 4,000 per month in the state. That puts Colorado on pace to exceed the current all-time high. As Denver 7's CB Cotton reports, the alarming trend has vehicle manufacturers taking action.
Micah, that's right. Certain Kia and Hyundai models are being stolen at an alarming rate. Why is that? Well, to put it in really simple terms, some of these models don't have a computer chip in the key fob, which makes it easier for them to be stolen. Once a thief is in the car, all they need is a USB to start up the ignition. And some people have actually posted videos on social media under the viral hashtags like Kia Boys or Kia Challenge, showing how easy it is to do this. So Kia tells Denver 7 it's working to provide steering wheel lock devices at no cost to law enforcement in areas affected by these thefts. And Hyundai tells Denver 7 it's released a security kit that will be available for purchase and installation at Hyundai dealerships. That kit is running around $170. Additionally, Hyundai says it's working on a software update to further secure their models being targeted. That software update will be available sometime in 2021. Unfortunately, these solutions come a bit too late for a woman we spoke with in late August. She had her Sonata stolen from right in front of her home, and the car was recovered about 10 days later in bad shape.
It was really important because, like I said before, I've never owned anything that was mine. I bought it brand new. I paid it off last year, and then somebody took advantage of my car and destroyed it.
And coming up on Denver 7 News at 6, we'll tell you about the items this woman found in her car after it was recovered. Note, it is alarming. We'll also talk to you a little bit more about the suspect and the charges he's now facing. In Denver, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
The Supreme Court took on a big case today that will affect voting. Joe St. George is in Washington, D.C. with the possible impact for our community.
Well, you may not live in Alabama, but a case out of Alabama before the Supreme Court today could have major impacts on the politics in your state going forward, and certainly around the country. What are we talking about? We're just talking about Merrill v. Milligan. Oral arguments were heard this morning. The case is out of Alabama, and it's essentially about the role race should play in the redistricting and gerrymandering process. What role does that play? In Alabama, about a quarter of the electorate are black, but only one of the 7 House seats representing Alabama in Congress are majority minority districts. So the Supreme Court will decide if legislators in Alabama need to, under the Voting Rights Act, take more of a consideration into race when they draw maps. Or they could very well say that state legislators have broad authority to draw the maps that they deem fit. The impact will be great on politics for years to come. And oh, by the way, if last year's term at the Supreme Court was about abortion, a hot topic at the Supreme Court this term is going to be race. We have this case today, and a little bit later this month, the Supreme Court will hear a case on affirmative action, which addresses the role race plays in the college admission process. Lots to watch for at the Supreme Court. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
All right, Joe, thank you. Now, patients are hopeful a newly approved ALS treatment will help buy them some time.
If you extend your life by 5 months or 6 months or maybe a year, maybe another drug will come along that might be a more effective treatment.
But this new drug isn't cheap. We're looking at what access to it is going to look like.
Plus, Elon Musk says he will go through with the deal and buy Twitter, when he's expected to take over the company and for how much. Next.